Hello. Our last tarot gathering, Gustavo, I believe is the way to pronounce his name. He had a good question, and I didn't really answer it in a very good way. So I wanted to talk about it because it's a good question. He wanted to know the difference between a student of the tarot, somebody who studies the tarot, the deeper stuff with the tarot, like Levi's the 22 paths of the Kabbalah, putting the tarot, weaving that into that, and Carl Jung's archetypes, and all this other deep stuff you can get into with this tarot. My brother was into that. Wasn't ever a reader, probably knew more about the tarot than I did, and never read. Didn't believe in it. Didn't think it was a good idea. He never said I did it, what I was doing was cheap, but he just didn't believe in that stuff. And then there's your street vendor tarot reader, just like me. I'm just a guy who reads tarot cards for a living. I don't follow any of that stuff. And I think Gustavo had a friend of his or somebody he met who was involved with the tarot was saying, don't get involved with being a reader, like telling people's future and stuff like this, because really it's just a cheap thing to do. You want to get involved with the serious mystical side of the tarot. And I disagree with that. And I didn't really answer that correctly when he asked me about that. I didn't hear, and when I heard the tape recording of the video of the meeting, I see that now. So I wanted to answer that because it's a very good question. And so if you want to know the tarot to read, want to be a reader, then you don't need any of that. This is you can get into this stuff. This is the Golden Dawn, all about the Golden Dawn. There's tarot in here. Some light reading. People want to join a health club, get in shape. No, you don't need to. Just read this book. Just carry this around with you wherever you're going. By the time you're done reading this book, you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger because this thing's so heavy. You'll be in real good shape if you read this whole book and carry this with you wherever you're going. That's all you need. Don't need all those machines. Don't need any of that stuff. So, but I will say one thing. He mentioned the word charlatan. And if you're somebody who studies the metaphysical side of things, the tarot is weaved in there. I don't believe that it's really was meant to be that way. They just did it, and they found ways to connect the cards to it. But there's better ways to study metaphysics. But if you want to be a card reader, yeah, there are charlatans out there. There are people who will take advantage of you. If you're desperate with something, they'll take advantage of you. And you got to meet them if you're a reader. That doesn't mean you got to be that way. There's a lot of wonderful readers out there, very sincere people. And that's what you can be. That's not a charlatan. That's a professional. To me, that's a professional reader. And I'll also say this, that if you're just starting out with the tarot and you're working with a group of other readers and you see the one who's all dramatic and theatrical and is giving you spells to do at home and howling at the moon and all this, and that person's getting more readings than you are because people are interested in that stuff. And you wonder, well, I guess this is what I got to do to be a successful reader. No. In the long run, if you're playing the big game, just be down to earth, be yourself, be who you are. Don't claim to have any gifted powers, and you have powers. You just got to develop them. We have them. We have the gifts to do that. And it's just a matter of like learning how to ride a bicycle. So you'll get better at it as you go. But you don't, and if you're, I could never be one of these drama people because you got to remember all this stuff that you implying that you know, and you got to be able to, whenever you see everybody, you got to put on this act that you're something that you're not. I don't have the patience to put on that act. But I'll tell you, over the long run, the one who does that They're usually not around after 5 years. They're in another state or somewhere else. Very few people can put that act on to imply that there's something that they're not. The charlatan. B.T. Barnum called it said there's a sucker born every minute, and they're out there. But if you want to play the long game and be somebody who does this for a long time, you're better off just being who you are and being sincere. When that person sits across from you and hands you money and you're sincere, they're going to feel like you're on their team. You're really there to help them. And that's what you're doing. And that is way better because that doesn't go away. And once you have that reputation, nobody can take it away from you. Nobody. And you're better off in the long run being that type of a reader. So just being sincere, know the cards, sure, but you don't have to know all this stuff. You don't have to know all this. Or I have books here that they look nice on the shelf, but I'm never going to read them again. If I read them at all. Some of it's fun. Some of it's fun to read. Carl Jung's ideas. Carl Jung and the archetypes. Fun to read. Some of this stuff at the Golden Dawn is fun to read. But I don't look at it like some course that I have to learn this stuff to be a successful reader. No. This is a deck of cards. I use it to help you find answers that we didn't see before we applied a card reading to. And that's what you're doing. I say I make predictions. You want to call looking into the future? You want to call yourself a fortune teller? That's just words. Whatever you want to call it, is go ahead and call it. But I would stay away from fortune teller. But the person that does all this theatrical stuff, yeah, your friend has got a point. There are charlatans out there. And I tell people, if you really want to follow somebody that's a card reader, if you go to New Age bookstores or New Age gift shops, if they're still around, that's what was around when I was really into this full swing. I'm still in it, but I mean, I was in there when that was all really plentiful stuff. Stores are going to hire above board, straight shooting type of sincere card readers because you represent that store. And that's where you're going to find good people to listen to or to learn from. When you see somebody who has just a shingle outside some office somewhere, some storefront, and it's just them, and it says fortune teller or psychic, I would watch out for that person. Especially when they're $5 readings, $10 readings, because they're going to tell you something that's going to make you feel you need more from them. And they're going to tell you, I can make a spell, but it's going to cost you $1,000. That's why they're charging $10, $5 for a reading. They're looking for that type of person. So yeah, your friend's right that they're out there. There's some really creepy people out there. But I don't care if you're an electrician. There's some creepy electricians out there. So I don't care what trade you're in, what business you're in, what craft you're doing. There's some good people and there's some bad people. So find the good ones. And stick with them. And you'll do good. You'll do fine. Anybody can do this stuff. But I tell you right now, people are more psychic than they're aware of. And when you have a client sits across from you and you're being sincere and you're thinking, this person has some troubles. They came to a reading for me. Just like everybody has troubles. Everybody has things they're wrestling with in life. I do, you do, everybody does. So they act like you have nothing and you're all this wise person and you have all the answers. That's not going to get you really far. It's a temporary fix for some people, but in the long run, you're better off just being who you are. And I'm just here to try to help you the best I can. And lots of times we find something really good. And that's the way you got to look at it. And they're looking at you as thinking, this guy's on my side. He's on my team right now. And they're believing you because they can feel that sincerity. And sometimes you will have some very psychic things come up, but you can't explain it. Sometimes you might see something. You might hear something. You might see something in their card just screaming at you that you never thought that card would mean. You're just not going to know why. You might have a hunch. Some of your readings will be hunches. Some will be strong hunches. And some will be, you just know it. So readings are not always this profound prophecy. No. Some readings might just be a confirmation. Yeah, you're doing everything right here. Maybe you want to change this. Fine tune it here. This. But I like where you're headed. And we'll stay away from people that do spells if you're trying to learn. People that try to tell you that the only way you're going to solve this is you're watching them and they're telling the client, you need to have this done. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars and I'll take care of it. I have clients that I've read for, and this is honest to God truth. One guy, two sisters, both readers. They took him for $80,000. And this was a pilot, a smart guy. $80,000. So they're out there. Do you want to live that way? No, you don't want to do it. If you're here, you don't want to do that. Maybe $50,000, but 80, come on. Anyway, he's fine. And he actually was able to sue and get some of his money back. So, but he was my client. So you saw the difference. And in the long run, that's where people are going to end up going to. They might start out by going to somebody who's way out there. And then they meet you. And they like what you're about. You're real. And real is a good thing to have when you're going down some rabbit holes, believe me. So unless you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't need to read this type of stuff. And you can tell I didn't read the whole book yet. I'm just looking normal here. Yeah. You don't have to have profound readings. You don't have to try to imply you're something you're not. Just be yourself. Learn these cards in any way it works for you. And they'll start to spark ideas for you that you didn't see before you sat down with the reading. You get a reputation for being sincere, and they'll love you for it. Where the other person, the charlatan, isn't going to have that from anybody. And the student of the tarot who's studying the Kabbalah and the 22 paths of the tree of life, or the ancient Egyptian scriptures of the Book of the Dead and how it relates to the tarot and all that, then none of that's going to do any good. You're not going to use any of that in your reading. So I would stay away if you want. It's just enjoyable to read that stuff, but you don't need to. So, Gustavo, I hope this answers your question a little bit better. And I also, anybody else who's looking into that, do I have to learn all this deep stuff to be or am I just being is this a cheap way to use the tarot cards by reading a reader? It's not a cheap way to use the cards. You can make it that way by the way you conduct yourself as a reader. That's all. But if you're sincere, you're in it for the long game, play it straight, do the best you can, help people try to find answers. And that's what this whole life is all about. Trying to deal with things. And when you get them done, you feel real good about yourself. Keep throwing cards. We'll talk soon.